I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC 300, talking about the biggest winners and losers of each card. Bit of a different stock report. I'm still in Vegas. The event just ended at T-Mobile Arena, so I'm back here in my hotel room. Got a flight in a few hours, but wanted to get this video done for you guys because I want to get all the content out as soon as possible. And we're not going to be able to do any screen sharing here, unfortunately, but I can kind of talk about the fights and just go through my biggest winners and losers. So the thumbnail always gives it away, but my biggest stock riser has to be Max Holloway. Now look, there were a lot of good performances at UFC 300, but Max Holloway had the type of performance that we're going to remember forever. I mean, that was one of the greatest knockouts of all time. He's up in the fight 4-1. He goes to Gaethje, points, and he says, let's go at it. And he's the one who ends up knocking out Justin Gaethje. I mean, just think about the fact that Justin Gaethje hasn't been knocked out since 2018. In fact, last time he was knocked out was against Dustin Poirier. And so here's Max, a fight that he already had in the bag, and he goes out there and he knocks him out. Face plants Justin Gaethje. I mean, easily the biggest stock riser here, and the biggest stock riser on the card, period. And here's why I put him above guys like Pereira and other people on this card, because Max Holloway, if he wants to, he could get a title shot in either weight class. I know, obviously, Arman Tsarukyan won tonight as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Max, he has a claim to the lightweight title, in my opinion, because of the fact that he beat the guy who many felt should have got the title shot against Islam Makhachev. So Max Holloway has to, so it's a combination of things. So it's a combination of the fact that Max Holloway won this fight by knockout. He, to the fact that Dana White and the UFC, they put the knockout everywhere on social media. Like, they never do that with pay-per-views. They always try and hide the content. Like, that just goes to show how big of a knockout this was. So he went viral, basically, tonight. So that's number one. He's number one on our stock list. Number two is he can have title shots in either weight class if he wants to. I think he's going to go featherweight. He sort of talked about this in the post-fight press conference. By the way, I have all those post-fight interviews from the UFC 300 presser on my channel if you guys want to go check that out. Obviously, he has options at 155 and 145, and then it's also just the fact that he was the underdog here and he came through. Like, it's all those things that was this perfect storm of him being easily the biggest stock riser on this card. It's great to see. Max Holloway's a great guy. Glad to see him get rewarded in this big fight against Justin Gaethje. He is the BMF champion, but he also has some options after this as well. So Max Holloway, no doubt about it, was the biggest stock riser on this card. Second biggest stock riser on this card has to be Alex Pereira. He went out there, he finished Jamal Hill in the first round. If the Holloway knockout didn't happen, this is probably what everyone's going to be talking about, is the fact that he finished Jamal Hill, first fighter to finish Jamal Hill. Now, obviously, Pereira was a favorite. He was expected to win, but the fact that he did it so quickly, very impressive. Then we find out after, I think he had a broken toe or something going into the fight, so that's even more impressive. And he's got a lot of options. I know in the broadcast they kept talking about heavyweight and UFC 301 and all this stuff. I mean, I'm calling it now. I don't think that happens because people have to remember, for Aspinall's end, like, why would he fight in 3 weeks when he doesn't need to? I think they'll take their time with that. I have a feeling they'll end up doing Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev next, because even Pereira himself has come out and said, look, I just fought Yuri. I want some new blood. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Ankalaev is a guy who's deserved a title shot a long time ago. Would love to see that fight. But yeah, Pereira's stock rose. Just the fact that, again, he gets another big finish in a different weight class. We've seen the knockouts at middleweight. For him to get a knockout like this, he knocks out Yuri Prochazka. Now he knocks out Jamal Hill. Huge stock riser for Alex Pereira on the night. And then I mentioned him there, Yuri Prochazka. A lot of questions going into this fight. A lot of Rakic fans saying this was going to be an easy win for him, and that didn't end up happening. And obviously, Yuri, the underdog, coming through, getting it done. It wasn't easy. I mean, if you were watching that fight early on, Yuri's leg was getting beaten up pretty good by those leg kicks. And he got hit with a bit as well. I mean, he usually does in most of his fights, but that's why Yuri is one of the most dangerous fighters on the planet, because he's tough to take out. One guy's been able to do it in the UFC. Now is Alex Pereira. The other Alex wasn't able to do it tonight, and that's Alexander Rakic. So Yuri goes out there, he gets the finish. Again, if there wasn't this fight with Alex Pereira in November, Yuri's getting a title shot, no questions asked. He may still get the title shot. We don't know, but it's kind of looking more towards like the champ wants Ankalaev. We'll see if the UFC agrees with him or not, but that'll be certainly very interesting. But yes, Yuri Prochazka, another big stock riser. There were a lot of stock risers on this card. Because this event's so stacked, I'm going to give some more than usual honorable mentions, but we have to talk about it a little bit. First and foremost, Arman Tsarukyan beating Charles Oliveira. Now, Arman was expected to win. If you looked at the betting odds, it was favoring him. Ran into some trouble in the first round. Oliveira getting that submission looked like Arman might have been out there, and not out as in there was any sort of controversy there, but it looked like when Oliveira had him in that spot, it looked like Arman might end up tapping, and he didn't. He survived. He ended up winning the fight. It was a split decision. I thought Arman clearly won the fight. I don't know what the debate was there as far as the rounds and all that, But they announced, unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, I mean, it's good to see Dustin Poirier get rewarded here for his big win over Benoit Saint Denis, but they announced tonight that Benoit Saint Denis, or that Dustin Poirier, I should say, see, I'm tired. That's how you can tell I'm repeating things here. Yeah, they announced that Dustin Poirier, Islam Makhachev will be headlining UFC 302. So Arman can still get the next title shot. He'll just have to fight the winner of that fight, is my understanding. But yeah, credit to Arman. Really good performance tonight. You know, he's had some good wins, but I think this is by far his biggest win. You know, fighting Charles Oliveira and just looking great doing so. So big win there for Arman Tsar. You can see he's got to get an honorable mention. We have to mention Kayla Harrison. Again, she was heavily favored going into this fight, but to finish Holly Holm, not many women have been able to do that. Again, I know the optics look good for Kayla coming in, but I think the biggest thing is she made weight, so her stock goes up there. She was able to make the weight, and she finishes Holly Holm. Kayla Harrison, a big stock riser. She might end up fighting for a title next. You never know the way the UFC's been going with things. Diego Lopez, have to talk about him. He was also a favorite going into his fight, but first round finish. Edson Barbosa couldn't finish Sodiq Yusuff. Diego Lopez does in a round. This is going to be a very dangerous opponent for the featherweight division right now. Diego Lopez, and you saw the way Dana was raving about him at the post-fight presser. He loves this guy. This is going to be a guy to watch this year for sure. He's going to get some big fights going forward. Money Moicano, how about him? Almost getting finished in his fight with Jaylen Turner. He comes back and he gets the win himself by knockout over Jaylen Turner. Got to talk about that. He was an underdog in this fight. Big win there for Moicano. One thing that's getting lost in the shuffle as well is Deiveson Figueiredo. Obviously he was favored against Cody Garbrandt. He was supposed to win this fight, but he goes up there and he submits Cody Garbrandt. I think first submission loss for Cody. Let me just check that right now. In his career. Yeah, first submission loss. So that in itself is impressive. But how about the fact that now Deiveson Figueiredo's got 2 good wins at bantamweight. He took out the former champ tonight, Cody Garbrandt. He beat Rob Font before that. We might be talking about Deiveson Figueiredo fighting for another title in a different weight class here pretty soon at bantamweight with a win like that over Cody Garbrandt. So that kind of got lost in the shuffle because it was the first fight of the night. And then the last honorable mention I'll say is Aljamain Sterling. Now I know I'm going to get pushback on this. We had this last week on the Stock Report video about actual performances. But listen, was it pretty? No. Was this the worst fight on the card? Yes. I mean, that's not saying much because this card was stacked anyways. But Sterling got it done. Whether you like him or not, he dominated Calvin Kattar in that fight. Kattar didn't win a single round. He had him against the cage. He had him down on the ground a lot this fight. And Sterling, whether you like him or not, he's now a player at 145, taking out Calvin Kattar. I know Kattar had a long layoff and he wasn't expected to win this fight, but you got to give credit for Aljo being successful in his debut at 145. Okay, let's get to some of the biggest stock droppers here. And again, the thumbnail always gives it away here. But the biggest stock dropper on this card, in my opinion, was Charles Oliveira. For the simple fact of this. Now, I know Charles, again, underdog going into the fight and all that. But here's the thing. That's it for lightweight title shots, I think anyways. I mean, he'd have to go on some crazy run again to get a shot at the lightweight title. This is a really tough loss for him against Arman because, again, it was sort of, like they said, the winner of this fight was going to get to fight for the title, unless Gaethje did something crazy. So this is a missed opportunity for Charles. But the reason I say he's the biggest stock dropper is because, what do you do now? He's going to stay at lightweight. He's obviously going to continue to get fights, but he's going to be so far behind now with trying to get a lightweight title shot at this point that his stock has been hurt the most, in my opinion. And you look at his age as well. He's not getting any younger. Oliveira to me was the biggest stock dropper just because, again, he might never fight for a title now at 155. He's 34 years old. He was getting up there a bit. So to me, he was the biggest stock dropper, in my opinion, just because of the optics of him probably not getting a title shot again. Maybe he can. We've seen things happen before, but as we sit here tonight after UFC 300, I have a hard time seeing Charles Oliveira getting a title shot again. So from that perspective, missed opportunity. And I know some people would have this person as the biggest stock dropper of them all, but I put him number 2 just because, again, Charles will never get another title shot. I guess you could say the same thing about Gaethje. Maybe we could put these as 1 and 1A. I just wanted to switch up the thumbnails so it just didn't look like the same fight here, with the winner and the loser. But yeah, Gaethje stock dropped big. Look, this was a risk taking this fight with Holloway. He ended up losing. That's all that matters. He might not be fighting for a title ever again after this. So, kind of same boat as Oliveira. He ends up getting knocked out. I'd say the only thing... I don't really think there is a difference between him and Oliveira, to be honest. I think they're both in the exact same spot. I guess Gaethje is probably worse because he was the favorite going into that fight. He was expected to win, whereas Oliveira wasn't. So maybe put Gaethje ahead, but I think they're tied as far as I'm concerned, as far as who's stock dropped the most on this card. It's got to be Gaethje, got to be Oliveira. And then I'll throw another one out there for you guys as well. Jaylen Turner, he was favored in this fight. He had the height and reach advantage. He has knockout power, wasn't able to put him away, and he kind of cost himself this fight, right? Thinking that he had the walk-off KO, doesn't end up happening, and then he ends up getting finished. So Jaylen Turner's stock has dropped big time now, because here's the optics of it right now. Whether you thought Jaylen was, should have got the win or whatever, everything else, he's got back-to-back losses now, right? So let me just find the fight. As I'm looking here on my laptop. Sorry, he won his last fight against Bobby Green. More importantly, he's lost 3 of his last 4. That's not a good look for a guy who, is 28 years old, but again, deep division. It's going to be tough for him to get to contender spots. So Turner gets that as well. Let's go through a couple honorable mentions as far as the biggest stock droppers on this card. Jamal Hill has to be there. First time he's been finished. Second loss in the UFC. That's tough, right? I mean, there's all this talk about, he never officially lost the title because he had to vacate it. He wasn't able to get it done against Pereira, and the fact that he got finished early in the fight, that's a tough one. So Jamal Hill, also a big stock dropper on this card. Alexander Rakic, he was a favorite here. Couldn't get it done against Yuri. He had a good game plan, it seemed, but when you go toe-to-toe with Yuri, chances are 9 times out of 10, unless you're Alex Pereira, you're probably not going to be the one coming out with the win. Yuri's an absolute animal, so Rakic's stock had definitely dropped just in terms of, he was supposed to win this fight. And then the other one I'll throw out there, Cody Garbrandt. Again, I know Cody wasn't favored to win this fight, but he didn't look good against Davison Figueiredo, and I think that speaks to how good Davison is, but I think we can all agree at this point after tonight, Cody Garbrandt is not a contender at 135, not even close. I think he had 2 good wins against, borderline UFC fighters, like Trevin Jones isn't in the UFC, Kelleher, I don't know what he's doing, but he's not going to be in the UFC much longer. He finally got that, that step up, the fight that he needed since his losing streak, and he didn't look good. He got finished in this fight. There's no 2 ways to look at it. So Garbrandt as well, stock dropping big time on this card after UFC 300. So, as always, I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who would be your top 3 stock risers? Who would be your top 3 stock droppers? Would love to hear from you in the comments. I know a lot of this is subjective. I just have my own way of looking at things. I do look a lot at context as far as how I do my stock stuff, because I just look at the overall optics of it. Like, again, Oliveira, Gaethje probably never fighting for a title again. Maybe they do, but I think it's going to be very tough. And conversely, Max Holloway's life changed tonight. I mean, it really did. Aside from the money he got, what did he get, $600K tonight or something, Dana was saying? He went viral. I mean, this is what the UFC needs. They need highlights like this. Like, I had friends who don't even watch MMA that much texting me about the Max Holloway knockout. That's good for the UFC. So, Max Holloway, biggest winner of the card. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoyed my coverage this week. Tried to give you guys the best stuff I could. Tried to go as live as I could. If you guys like the content I did this week, let me know in the comments, because I'll be back here in June for UFC 303. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching. Before I go, make sure you hit that like button and hit that notification bell. It means a lot. I got to get a couple hours sleep, and I got a flight to catch, so I'll talk to you guys later.